Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to more of Queen Andraya. Today we are on Chapter 14. Here we go. Chapter 14. A New Arrival. "Let us sit, Your Highness," said Andraya. Steffan held out an arm and motioned for the Queen to sit first. Andraya sat in an overstuffed golden velvet chair, next to a silver tea table, and the prince settled into an identical chair on the opposite side. On top of the tea table's shiny surface lay an open letter. Andraya could not read it, but she could see by its characters that the language was Deldrian. "Have you received good news from home?" Andraya asked. Steffan saw her eyeing his letter. He glanced up at her warily. He took the letter in his hands and folded it up. "Your Highness, I was not trying to pry into your personal affairs. Even if I were, you know I do not read Deldrian." "I know that, my queen. I am only leery because I believe the news I received might involve you." "I? How so?" Steffan tucked the letter neatly away in the inside pocket of his sky-blue suit coat. "Let's not discuss it at present. Not after your heated discussion with His Grace the Marquis." Steffan said this with the subtlest of vexations, but not subtle enough to escape the Queen's notice. "I would venture to say His Grace is the gentleman you loathe the most, is he not?" Steffan rolled his shoulders back and placed them on either side of the armchair. "Certainly not." Andraya smirked. "Regardless, my discussion with him was hardly heated." Steffan smirked back. "I forgot. The word heated reaches a different level entirely in Chaldrea." His statement felt like a bee suddenly stung the Queen in her chest. She busied herself with removing various letters from her skirt pocket in hopes the prince would not notice. Then Steffan's hand appeared on her knee. "I did not mean that as a charge against you, my queen." Andraya lifted her head to look at him. He leaned forward in his seat, and his eyes were soft. The Queen scooted back in her chair and crossed her legs. The prince interlocked his fingers, but remained in his forward position. "Tell me something, Your Highness," Andraya said to him. Steffan leaned back in his chair. "Whatever you wish." "Is Deldria the type of kingdom where titles are not only used, but respected?" Steffan's expression shifted with curiosity. "Meaning?" "Meaning, when speaking to one of higher rank, tempers are checked, and voices are not raised. Concerns can be brought up, but not allegations." Steffan lifted his eyebrows up and down as he considered that. "Well, Your Majesty, my native kingdom is far from perfect, but more or less, yes, that is correct." Andraya nodded. "That is how it was in MaDeen." She glanced up at the large mural of the Chaldrayan flag, etched into the vast stone chimney that lengthened from the fireplace up to the 4th floor. "Do you know what the Chaldrayan flag symbolizes, Your Highness?" "As a matter of fact, I do." Andraya smiled at him. "I do not doubt it." She glanced up at the flag again. "Courage, truth, and valor. That is what I want to bring back to Chaldrea." After a brief silence, Andraya felt Steffan's hand on her knee again. "You will, Your Majesty. You already have the bull by its horns." Andraya stared at his hand. How could a simple hand on her knee make her heart feel jumpy? She wanted to reach out and clasp it in hers, but that would be out of the question. Instead, she chose to be amused by his comment. "And which gentleman, may I ask, is the bull?" Steffan raised his hand in a casual gesture. "Pick one." Andraya cocked her head. "Are you a bull, Your Highness?" "That depends on who is chasing me," he said with a smile. "I see." Andraya eyed him with suspicion, which made Steffan grin wide. She turned her attention to her letters once more. Steffan shifted like he was nervous again, as he pulled out the same peculiar-shaped book as before. Andraya almost asked him about it, but the intense wording of the first letter she opened distracted her. "My dear Queen, just because you are the most gorgeous creature on earth does not mean you get to do whatever you want. How dare you have me thrown out of the Royal Council meeting? and dismissing me as your royal advisor? Of all the insipid things, madam, I have knowledge and experience and a phenomenal record of monetary success. And whether your prideful pretty head will admit it or not, I can help you succeed as the head crown. I know exactly what to do if you will just let go of your wretched stubbornness. There is no possible way that brainless, big-bellied Besnik can perform such an important profession better than I. The next line had been crossed out 3 solid times, but Andraya could still make out what it said. After such a monstrosity of a decision, I dare say you have gotten what you deserved. Instead, he replaced it with, I am sorry you are unwell. Yours sincerely, Dolian Rams, Chancellor for the Chaldrayan Noble Council, former and future royal advisor to the head crown, Queen Andraya. The queen scoffed out loud. What is it? Steffan asked. Oh, just the same old accusations. Andraya waved his concern away and moved on to the next letter. At first glance, she could see it was a poem. What happened to you is bad. It has made me very sad. How could anyone think to put a spider in your drink? Of all the wretched things. I wish you were awake. Then we could eat cake, and you could see the sun go down, with your big eyes, that are brown. Andraya moaned internally. This poem could only be from one person. And sure enough, he signed the bottom with this gleeful salutation. My dear Queen, it is a pity you were poisoned. Lord Bartholomew Bobbins. Ugh, Andraya exclaimed. What is it now? Steffan asked. More accusations? Oh no, Andraya said, as she folded up the parchment. Just horrible poetry. The prince flushed. I am sorry you do not like it. Then he shifted to read his book, so Andraya could no longer see his face. She stared after him in confusion. Why should he have such a reaction? It is not as if he had written the poem. She wanted to question him, but his body language screamed a desperate, "Leave me alone." So she decided she would wait and ask him later. She unfolded the next letter and began to read. With each word, her heart pulsed faster and faster. When I sleep, I dream of your beauty. When I wake, I'm thinking of you. Oh, how I long to see your face. When I see you, I long to be near. When you smile, I long for your voice. When you speak, I long for your lips. When you move, I long for your touch. When I see you, I long to be near. When I close my eyes once more, your face does not disappear. Your laugh, your eyes, your arresting walk. When I see you, I long to be near. Oh my, Andraya thought. She gawked at the letter as her heart accelerated. Prince Steffan signed it, with a strong, elegant hand. Yours affectionately, Prince Steffan Adelric. Was this the poem that the prince thought she was referring to? But this poem was... Andraya had no words for this poem. Your Highness, she choked out, Your Majesty, an unexpected visitor has arrived. Andraya glanced up to see the butler's large stature standing next to her. He bowed low. Who is it, Alvin? He says his name is Lord Martin Brodus of MaDeen. Andraya jumped to her feet. What? Prince Steffan stood as well. He claims he sent you a letter informing you of his arrival, said the butler. Did he? Andraya fumbled through her pile of letters. Sure enough, there was an envelope stamped with the words, paid 1 Sion, the cost it would take for mailing a letter from MaDeen to Chaldraya. She sliced it open with her finger and quickly read the message. To the majestic Queen Andraya of Chaldraya. I heard of the passing of your husband, may he rest in peace, and as your former friend and associate, I have taken it upon myself as my duty to come comfort you straight away, as soon as I get my things in order. There is much to do. You see, I received the honor of being called Lord not 1 year ago, and recently have received the prestigious certificate MaDeen Royal Finance Expert, signed by His Majesty King Victor, your beloved father. Andraya scanned the next 3 paragraphs and discovered that it was full of Martin's own credentials and affairs he needed to attend to. She swiftly folded up the letter. Yes, I suppose he did. Alvin, will you please send for my lady-in-waiting? "Of course, your majesty," Alvin said, with a slight bow. "Would you like to greet Lord Martin, or shall I show him to his room?" "I will greet him. Thank you, Alvin. Prince Steffan, would you join me, please?" Steffan looked as though the very thought made him sick. Nevertheless, he agreed. The two of them walked side by side, down the marble hallway, and around the corner to the palace's wide, high-vaulted entryway. There stood Martin Brodus, just as Andraya remembered him. Her high heels had the queen standing just a couple inches taller than the gentleman, his brunette hair combed over to one side. He carried a large leather bag over one shoulder of his black suit. His bulbous eyes brightened at her approach. "Your Majesty!" he cried, as he dipped into a bow so low Andraya thought his head might soon reach his toes. "My lord, what a pleasant surprise!" "I hoped you would say such a thing, my queen." He took her hand in his and kissed it. "I trust your travels went well." "Indeed, your majesty. And now I am finally in your presence," he said, with another slight bow. "Lord Martin, this is Prince Steffan of Deldria." "Deldria? Now that is a long boat ride." "A pleasure, your highness," Martin said with a bow. Steffan nodded. "How do you do?" "Why don't you get settled, and later we can reminisce, if you are not too tired," Andraya said to Martin. "Your majesty, I will never be too tired for you." He slid his bag off his shoulder and turned to the butler. "Oh, do take this, my fellow." He all but shoved his bag into Alvin's chest. The butler looked irritated, but he said, "Of course, sir." "Thank you, Alvin," Andraya said for Martin. Martin gave her a curious look. "My dear queen, I just traveled to Bastira a few months ago, and would you know that the royals say that anyone with a crown need not thank a servant, nor apologize to them?" Out of the corner of her eye, Andraya saw Steffan clench his jaw and look away. "I see. So the truly dignified need not show dignity to others. Is that right?" Andraya questioned. "Oh, well, Martin stammered. "I suppose there are flaws in that practice, and a brilliant mind like yours would surely catch them. Tell me, your majesty, can you still play that little mind trick of yours? I would very much like to see it again." "It is not a trick, my lord, and my mind is not a toy for your entertainment." "Oh, no, not at all, my lady." Andraya raised her brow at the intimate term. "Oh, I mean, Martin shook his head with vigor. "I apologize. That phrase is common in Bastira. That confounded kingdom has me all backward." He kneeled in front of the queen. "Forgive me, your majesty." "Oh, please, Martin, do get up. It was an honest mistake." "Yes, madam," he said as he got to his feet. Andraya had forgotten how dramatic Martin could be. It used to be fun. Now it was different. Just then, Colleen came barreling around the corner. She slowed once she noticed her audience. Colleen's hair appeared disheveled, and the shadows under her eyes were clearly purple. It was the first time Andraya had a coherent encounter with her since she was poisoned. Colleen's eyes were practically bursting with excitement, and it was all the young queen could do to refrain from embracing her dear friend. "You wanted to see me, your majesty?" "Yes. I would love it if you joined the three of us on a walk. I need an arm to lean on." "Have you been unwell, my queen?" Martin asked. "I have," Andraya said. She left it at that, not wanting to explain at the moment how someone in the palace was trying to kill her. "I am deeply sorry to hear that." "Thank you, my lord. Shall we?" Andraya glanced around at the three of them. Martin looked unmistakably delighted, and Colleen quite nervous. Steffan looked fairly miserable, but he nodded in agreement. "Allow me to leave my jacket behind," said the prince, shrugging out of his royal suit coat. "I will take that for you, your highness," Alvin offered. "Thank you kindly," replied the prince. He made no snide glance toward Martin to make sure the lord was aware that he remembered to be polite. It was simply a natural and sincere response. Andraya's heart leaped with excitement as a footman opened the giant mahogany double doors, allowing the bright sunlight to pour in and warm her soul. She needed this day of leisure, what with being on the brink of death for the past few days. Now was her chance. Now she would finally be able to keep her promise and help Colleen find a husband. He was right here, a lord, the highest position Colleen could possibly marry by law. It was perfect. Yes, fate had brought Martin Brodus to Chaldrea. And that concludes Chapter 14. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.